The moment the front door slammed behind him, the entire neighborhood seemed to fall silent. After 12 years of marriage, countless sleepless nights, and sacrifices nobody had ever noticed, Owen Mercer stood on the sidewalk holding only one suitcase while his wife watched from the doorway with cold eyes that no longer recognized the man who had quietly helped build her success. What hurt most wasn't being asked to leave, it was hearing her say that she had reached the top completely on her own. 3 days later, while celebrating the biggest business deal of her career, she opened the final contract and discovered one name hidden throughout every page, the very name of the husband she had thrown away. If you believe kindness, forgiveness, hope, and second chances still matter in this world, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps our community continue bringing stories that remind us compassion can change lives. Owen had never cared about titles or recognition. While his wife, Meredith Callaway, climbed the corporate ladder, he quietly handled everything else. He left his own promising consulting career so she could travel without worrying about home. He prepared breakfasts before sunrise, managed bills, repaired the house, comforted her after failed presentations, and spent countless evenings reviewing proposals she barely remembered asking him to read. Every successful presentation she delivered carried ideas they had discussed over coffee at their kitchen table, but Owen never asked for credit. Seeing her succeed had always been enough. Success, however, has a dangerous way of changing people when gratitude slowly disappears. Meredith became the youngest executive vice president in her company's history, and praise surrounded her every day. Colleagues applauded her brilliance, magazines requested interviews, and social media celebrated her as a self-made business genius. At first she corrected people whenever they ignored Owen's support. Eventually those corrections became shorter. Then they disappeared entirely. The opportunity of a lifetime arrived when her company began negotiating a $33 million partnership with an international investment group. Winning the contract would guarantee her promotion to chief executive officer. Meredith threw herself into endless meetings while Owen quietly organized documents, proofread reports, and even noticed several legal inconsistencies that could have destroyed the agreement. He marked every correction with simple notes and returned the files without expecting thanks. As the pressure increased, Meredith's personality changed. Every small disagreement became an argument. Every suggestion sounded like criticism. She convinced herself that anyone questioning her decisions simply couldn't understand her brilliance. Owen recognized the exhaustion behind her anger and remained patient, believing the stress would eventually pass. Instead, everything shattered. On the afternoon the contract was officially approved, Meredith returned home carrying flowers, champagne, and cameras following her into the driveway. Reporters called her a visionary leader. She smiled proudly while thanking her colleagues but never once mentioned the man standing quietly inside the house waiting to congratulate her. After the reporters left, Owen embraced her and sincerely told her how proud he was. Meredith stepped away, her expression strangely distant. She confessed she felt trapped by a marriage that reminded her of an ordinary life she had outgrown. She claimed ambitious people needed ambitious partners, not someone who stayed behind managing a household. Every sacrifice Owen had made for her suddenly became proof, in her mind, that he lacked ambition. Without raising his voice, Owen simply asked if she truly believed that. She answered yes. Minutes later his suitcase sat beside the front door. He walked away without arguing because love cannot survive where respect has already disappeared. 3 days passed. Meredith entered the headquarters to finalize the ceremonial signing before investors, attorneys, and board members. Everyone applauded as the leather-bound contract was placed before her. She proudly opened the document, expecting another moment of triumph. Instead, confusion crossed her face. Throughout the agreement were references to strategic financial frameworks, operational models, and proprietary planning systems. Each carried a small acknowledgement required by intellectual property law. Every acknowledgement credited one person: Owen Mercer. She flipped another page. His name appeared again. And again. The conference room grew unusually quiet. The lead attorney calmly explained that many of the negotiation strategies incorporated into the final agreement were legally registered years earlier by Owen during his consulting career. Because Meredith's team had legitimately included those licensed frameworks, his authorship had to remain documented throughout the contract. Removing his name would invalidate portions of the agreement and expose the company to serious legal risks. Meredith felt the room spinning. The brilliant strategies everyone had praised were never entirely hers. They had always begun with conversations around their kitchen table. Suddenly memories returned like waves crashing against a fragile shore. Owen staying awake until 2 in the morning reviewing spreadsheets while she slept. Owen encouraging her before every difficult presentation. Owen gently correcting mistakes without making her feel embarrassed. Owen celebrating every promotion as though it belonged to both of them. She had mistaken quiet strength for weakness. Meanwhile, Owen had accepted temporary work restoring old buildings on the outskirts of the city. The pay was modest, but he found peace among honest co-workers who valued effort more than reputation. For the first time in years, nobody knew him as someone else's husband. He simply became Owen again. Meredith drove there the following afternoon. She found him wearing dusty work gloves, carefully helping an elderly carpenter lift heavy timber. He smiled warmly at the older man, laughed at an ordinary joke, and looked lighter than he had in years. Seeing that smile broke her heart. She realized she had not merely lost a husband. She had lost the safest place she had ever known. When their eyes met, Owen greeted her politely, without bitterness or anger. His kindness somehow hurt even more than if he had shouted. Meredith apologized through tears. She admitted success had filled her with pride instead of gratitude. She confessed she had believed public recognition mattered more than private loyalty. Every achievement suddenly felt empty because the person who had quietly stood behind every victory was no longer standing beside her. Owen listened patiently. He told her forgiveness and trust were not the same thing. Forgiveness could happen in a moment, but rebuilding trust required countless ordinary days filled with consistent actions. Love was never measured by expensive gifts, million-dollar contracts, or magazine covers. It was measured by how people treated each other when nobody was watching. Those words stayed with Meredith long after she left. Over the following months, she changed more through actions than promises. She publicly acknowledged Owen's contributions during interviews. She established employee programs supporting spouses and caregivers whose unseen sacrifices often went unnoticed. She stopped chasing applause and started listening to people around her. One afternoon she visited the old community center where Owen had begun volunteering to teach financial literacy classes to unemployed parents trying to rebuild their lives. He wasn't interested in fame anymore. He simply wanted others to avoid the loneliness he had once carried. She quietly joined one of the classes, sitting in the back without introducing herself. She watched Owen patiently encourage every student, celebrating their smallest victories with genuine joy. It reminded her of the man she had fallen in love with years earlier before ambition clouded everything. When the class ended, they walked together through the park under warm afternoon sunlight. There were no dramatic speeches and no miraculous reunion. Just two people honestly acknowledging both the love they had shared and the mistakes that had nearly destroyed it. Whether they would fully rebuild their marriage remained uncertain, but something far more important had returned. Respect. And from respect, hope slowly began to grow again. Before we reach the end, I'd love to hear from you. Leave a meaningful comment telling us whether you believe success is worth anything if it costs the people who stood beside us from the beginning. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. Because in the end, the most valuable name you'll ever see written across the pages of your life isn't the one the world applauds, it's the one that stayed beside you when nobody else was reading your story.